Welcome back to Rock Guitar Confidential with Scott and Ryan. On today's episode, Teacher Talk from a couple of guys who could use an accent teacher. Thanks for listening.
Sponsored by Bradbury's Tea Biscuits. When you're in the mood for tea and biscuits, choose Bradbury's.
Pip, pip.
Pip,
So
pip.
we'll be dedicating this episode to the dearly departed queen.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Dear Miss, God save the Queen. Oh, too late, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
It's a little late for that.
She was a devoted cousin to her husband.
It's true. And we got to say, God bless the king then. Something like that.
Right.
The king, King Charles. Oh, see, there it is. Someone had the good decency to make sure to call when we're in the middle of recording. I love it. Yeah, it's funny with the Queen passing. It's not that I'm happy that anyone ever dies, but at the same time, it's like, okay, the real story is, okay, late 90s woman passes away of natural causes.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool, that makes sense,
Right.
I'm not sure that her life had any more value than, some abuela down in Tijuana who lived, someplace outside, the city,
Yes.
or somebody anywhere. Every other great grandparent somewhere is just as valuable. Their life, they contribute just as much to the world as she did. You know what I mean? It's like, I think the idea of celebrating a hereditary monarchy in 2022 is a little gross.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
Wholeheartedly.
But people like their fantasies. You know what I mean? They want to believe that there's like a Harry Potter-esque sort of world they're living in or something.
Potter.
It's like, hey Potter, is that wee guy with the wee glasses who does the magic bits and all?
Is that Harry over there with Samuel Grintleballs?
Yes, I think he's checking out his Grintleballs. I'm pretty sure. That's why he needs those big thick glasses.
That's Leviosa out of here.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
The great people of the British Isles, I'm sorry your queen has passed. I'm sure it'll be wonderful under King Charles. I'm sure it's going to be fabulous.
And to the people of Jamaica, I hope you get reparations.
And the rest of the world who rightly hates the British Empire,
right.
You are welcome. Another one of those Brits died. So there you go. Exactly. Especially my Scottish brothers. My Scottish brothers, we should not be satisfied with only one English death. We should have many more,
Dude,
only from natural causes though. We should wait them out. That's the key.
I thought that
wait
was
till they get like about 98, and then they'll just die. That's how we get the British.
I thought that was like a dwarvish accent from Lord of the Rings. That was really great.
Based off the Scottish accent.
Yes.
You've noticed the dwarves are Scots. Which,
a
person who is part Scot, I'm actually a little pissed about that.
I thought you were all Scot.
Well, I mean, I am. My name is all Scot, but it's Scottish extraction. You know what I mean?
Scott traction.
Well, I'm equal parts Scottish, Irish, English, and German. So I've got a lot of self-loathing going on. Exactly, yes. But one thing I've learned is that we should not tolerate imperfection. Yeah. That is true. When I am working on my craft, I should not tolerate imperfection. And I'm so sorry, people in Germany. You guys are wonderful people.
Especially you guys, Schenker Brothers.
That's true.
And if Yuli John
Klaus
is listening, Klaus, mine.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, man, we're forgetting...
Matthias,
yeah,
of course.
Poor Matthias.
Even Herman and oh gosh, what's the
Herman Rarebell and
can't remember
the bass player that stole all their money.
Francis, yes.
Francis Buchholz.
Which, he's just an entrepreneur. He's trying to find ways to, craft to...
well, I mean, he had, less music to be responsible for.
That's true.
He's the bass player.
Yeah, exactly.
So, of course he's going to do some accounting.
How are we ever going to replace the bass player? I mean, I can't imagine the cattle call that must have gone out for that. So... But anyway, thank you guys. This is the Rock Guitar Confidential podcast. We got very far into this before we actually stopped and just reminded everyone what we're even doing here. This is Rock Guitar Confidential podcast with myself, Scott Allen, and over there is
Ryan Bowe.
Welcome in. And today you guys are in for a treat because today we are already, the 14th episode of our podcast?
This is the 15th episode.
Is it the 15th? Oh my
It's
God.
our 15th anniversary episode.
Yeah. And we're already doing it again. We're doing Teacher Talk Part 2.
Yes, I think in British this would be Plastic Jubilee.
Isn't it Boxing Day? I could have sworn it was Boxing Day. We're supposed to box up things and then unbox them. I don't know what you do on Boxing Day.
Right.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Brits they do that and then they eat something completely boiled and gross.
Yes. Well, we'll start having some guests soon, and then I will unbox another set of headphones.
There you go. That's
so
what Boxing Day is all about. In the spirit of Boxing Day.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Exactly.
Yes.
All right, so if you guys don't know a lot about Ryan and I, we are pro musicians, have been instructors, have been in different bands, released recordings, done session work, all that stuff forever. But a lot of what we do today, in addition to brilliant thoughts with you with this podcast, is to teach guitar lessons. And we've got a few things we want to kind of talk about related to trying to teach people. And the first thing I want to talk about is when we are giving a John Wick style impossible task. When a student comes in and says, all right, I want to be able to play guitar like Steve Vai or Yngwie Malmsteen or Tosin Abasi, but I am not going to practice or do any scale exercises.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm not sure how that's going to happen. Exactly. One thing that's really a dirty little secret that people will always tell you is not true is that to get really, really great technique takes a lot of work, a lot of consistent work over time. Mm-hmm. There's not any shortcuts. There's no method. There's no simple way to do it. You just got to be consistent, show up for work, practice your butt off, chop wood, do it all the time, and it's going to take you about a year or two. And then by the time you're done with that, you're going to have good enough technique to start even thinking about tackling the kind of material you want to do. So if you like technical guitar playing, you have to recognize that's part of the package. There's no shortcut to that. There's no easy way to do it. And I don't know, Ryan, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'd even say that whether or not you like technical guitar playing, I mean, you still need to learn scales and play them.
Yeah, for everybody out there who's a singer-songwriter who thinks they don't need to have good scale technique, all I can tell you is not having technique or understanding of harmony is only going to limit you. It's going to X around what kind of creativity you can even imagine. So you might, if you have, maybe you don't have amazing technique, but you have solid technique and you have a good grasp of music theory, then you can do anything. If you don't have those two things, then you're extremely boxed in, and you're going to have very, very, very few options. So instead of having 15 options, you'll have 4 options. And then your music's going to start really suffering for that because you're having the same 4 ideas again instead of actually doing a thing where you're actually being unlimited creatively. That's probably not a word. Creatively. Creatively.
Yes.
So to me, I've never, ever, since the day I picked up guitar, been interested in playing anything that isn't technical guitar playing. Like my bar from day one was Eddie Van Halen, George Lynch, Steve Vai, and Yngwie Malmsteen.
Randy
That was my job. Yeah, Randy for sure, and Chris Oliva. A few other people
all the guys that we mentioned in our over and underrated episode.
But that was from day one. I didn't think, I'm just going to pick up the scene and just dick around. Like playing guitar was the riff to Crazy Train.
Yeah.
And the second thing I learned how to play was the tapping run to Eruption. Those are the first 2 things I learned on playing guitar. I didn't learn an A chord or G chord. That being said, just to be clear, I did it the wrong way. I should have actually started fundamentals. I had a teacher who was terrible and didn't actually understand how to give me any direction. So I was just kind of learning random bits and pieces here and there, which is not the way to do it.
Yeah, well, we had no internet back then.
Just whoever you could find to teach you had to trust that they knew what they were doing, and most of the time they didn't.
Dude, I remember being a kid who knew a bunch of pieces of a bunch of songs.
Yep, exactly.
At a certain point.
Because the teachers, you got to keep in mind that if the teacher's not a good teacher, they really have one job in mind, which is to keep you coming back. So to challenge you and make you do stuff that you don't want to do, that's not good for their job security. They want to just give it. It's almost like if you went to a personal trainer and they understand that you don't really like to exercise and eat right, so they just said, "Hey, man, here's some Twinkies. It's all good." Yep. It's basically, that's not going to help you even come close to achieving your goals, but they don't care because you like them. You'll come back for Twinkies next week.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And that doesn't mean that it's right for you.
I think the right guitar instructor is the one who wants to teach you to a point where you don't need them anymore.
Yep.
And
they have a plan for you, and there's certain there'll be one thing I've learned over the years as I've been teaching is flexibility. Because I used to be very strict. Nope, I don't care what you want. We're going to stick to this plan. And I know some people, just the way they're wired, are great with that, or just want to get on a path and they understand how to check boxes and do what's required of them, and they just kind of go through it. And some people aren't that person. So you have to have enough flexibility to recognize when someone needs to take a break from the stuff they really need to know. And then you can deviate for a while. Because my way of thinking of it is this is just keeping this person excited about playing guitar. That's the only part right there. Because if I just keep pounding them in the head and saying, okay, you have to this, I don't care if you like it or not, that's going to drive them to start to hate playing guitar.
Yeah, it can never.
If they're that kind of person. You know what I mean?
It's always got to be a good vibe in the lesson.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that's different than being the personal trainer who's
giving Twinkies. Yeah.
But it's always got to. I always make a point to, because we've all had the student that comes in and says, yeah, I couldn't practice, and then because this happened, and I was busy.
That's called a student.
Right, yeah. I don't know how many times I've had to point out, especially to a teenager, I just tell them, look, I am never going to get mad at you.
Yeah. I'm here to help you learn. So but if you got to do that 15 more times, then that's what we're going to do. It's just how it is. My job is to be patient and help you learn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm going to help guide you along. And your job is to go home and do the things I'm asking you to do. And if we all do our jobs, we'll be successful.
Yep.
And we'll be playing that cool stuff, but you actually know how to play, not just know how to where your fingers go. You actually know what you're doing. You know what I mean? And then at some point, like 3-4 years from now, if you practice and do what we say, you won't need me anymore. You'll actually be able to completely teach yourself from that point forward. You won't need anybody else to guide you.
Yep.
The internet's full of a lot of very good resources. The problem is you can't use those resources until you have a certain level of proficiency.
Yeah,
you know?
or maybe someone wants to study with that specializes.
Yeah.
Maybe they just want to play jazz all the time,
Which is a shame. That should never happen, actually.
or,
But
or maybe they want to play like strict classical all the time.
so it's almost
just
like
all the
saying
time.
sometimes people want to just stick needles under the fingernails because that's what they like to do.
Why
right?
can't they just play the right notes?
Why can't you just rock, dude? What the hell?
Yeah,
just rock.
jeez.
Jeez, classical doesn't rock unless it's Ingve
and Randy
or
Chris
Andy
Pelletieri,
Lugok, and then it
or-
rocks. But then that's different.
or-
So, you know,
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make though is that no matter what your sort of thoughts are about what should be done when, you have to have some flexibility as an instructor. And so if you have a teacher who's a total a-hole and just won't listen to you, I mean, if someone needs to feel heard. I think if someone's upset, like even if someone's telling me, like the guy who's saying like, hey, I want to have amazing technique, but I'm not going to practice scale exercises, I have to be able to like, okay, I hear you and I understand where you're coming from, but here's what the problem is with that. I'm going to explain them why I'm not going to go along with that, because you're telling me you want to be able to play like these players. If I let you not do the things I know you have to do, I'm lying to you, basically. I'm basically telling you
Yeah.
you can do that with it, but you can't. You have to do this stuff. If you want to be able to play like those guys, you have to be able to do this. You have to know your scales. You can't not know your scales. You have to be able to play
Yeah.
every key in every position. You have to have good technique and coordination. If you don't have those things, you aren't going to be able to come close to playing the things
Yeah.
that you're wanting to play. So you have to be respectful, make sure they feel heard, but be honest with them too and say, look, but if you're telling me this is what you want to do, this is the way you do that. This is how that works. You know what I mean? I used the analogy before when we were recording. Like, it's like someone going to a personal trainer and saying, hey, I want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I'm not going to lift weights or exercise.
Right.
It's like, I don't know how that works. I think that can happen, actually. It's
yeah, totally. And in terms of I've got you teach your students the major scale, and it's inescapable.
Yeah.
In Western music.
Yeah.
It's there no matter what. I don't
Yep.
care
Well,
what you're playing. If it's
you got to at least have a good grip of rhythm and harmony. You have to understand at least pentatonic and diatonic scales in their relationship to modes. You have to at least have that under your belt to really almost do anything.
Yep.
If you don't have those things, then you can say, okay, now if I want to be a much more technical player, I need to get into arpeggios, learn things like economy and sweep picking, hybrid picking, legato, how double stops work diatonically, how to harmonize things, how to navigate, modulations, how to navigate non-tonal chord progressions, things like that. If you want to get to be really advanced, you have to know how to do those things. But for just like the average Joe Schmo, you know how major and minor in the modes work, you know your pentatonic and diatonic scales, and can navigate them in every key. You have a good grip of rhythm and chord vocabulary. That's really the basic nuts and bolts of being a guitar player right there.
Yep.
And then you can add on to that at the end if you want. Now, reading is something you need depending on what you're going to do. If you're going to go study in any kind of a scholastic setting of any kind, you need to know how to read.
Right.
If you're going to be a pro musician, you need to know how to read. If you're just going to be a person who's playing in rock and roll bands, like either cover bands or like a garage band or something, then you probably will never come up with sheet music, and it's probably not a high priority. You're good at music reading.
Yeah, it's the old joke about how do you get a rock guitar player to shut up?
I actually heard it was all guitar players, actually.
Oh, really? Really? Yeah, you put a chart in front of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's true, but I mean, the answer's gonna be different for everybody, though. Like, what it needs to be as far as whether the reading's gonna be a big part of it or not. I would always say my big line my students hear me say all the time is there's no advantage to ignorance. There's no advantage to knowing less.
Oh, no, not at all.
You know what I mean? So it's better to know how to read than not know how to read. You know what I mean? That's and it's just about doing the work. It's not like there's some magic trick. Just do the work.
Two things there. One is I think the distinction needs to be made between technique and then understanding the theory behind it all, right?
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but so when I teach someone the 7 modes of the major scale, they don't know that they're modes yet. It's just we're in G major, and here's G major pattern 1, here's pattern 2, 1 through 7, right?
Yep.
So if you get the technique in order, then you can offload that brain power that you originally used to develop the technique and then devote all that brain power to understanding what you're doing afterwards.
Exactly. And then also you can say, hey, now guess what? Not only did you just play G major, but you also played E minor and A Dorian and B Phrygian and C Mixolydian and so on. You just did all the modes that relate to G major, and you already have the scales right
and there's
there.
And there should be joy in that. Oh my God, I already can play this.
Yeah.
So, and there's the other thing that if I'm just speaking as an instructor, like I've had students, so hey, how's it going with those scale patterns? Boring.
Yeah.
I never thought it was boring. I still don't think it's boring.
Well, it's only boring if you want to suck forever. You know what I mean?
I guess, dude. I just remember being able to play it and then like being proud of myself for being able to play it and then wanting to do that again.
Totally. Because you feel that accomplishment. And then not only that, but now you look at how cool you can play this other cool stuff. It's amazing. And like the question sometimes, and they really don't want to ask me this question, which is like, how long did it take you to get this down? I'm like, dude, you don't want to know. It took me a couple weeks. Because I practiced like 5 hours a day every day. It was like I had this down fucking quick. Like within a month, I had every scale and every key down. You know what I mean?
Dude, I think an honest answer for me would be, I don't remember.
Yeah. But it was so much fun at the time, you know what I mean? And I don't know what to make of that. And I always say, well, tough crap. You got to learn that stuff, man. It's like, you know, I sometimes depending on the student, and you know, every student's different. Some students you can be jokey with. Some students need to be very reassured. Some students you can really give them a little bit of that tough love because they can handle it. So if it's a student I can give tough love to, I'm like, well, or he could just suck forever. I'll say something like that too. You know what I mean?
Totally.
You know, it's like, or you can get this down and stop being such a pansy and just practice. You know what I mean? It's like,
and especially, you know, it's especially challenging when it's a student who I know is passionate about playing. Like when it's a student who's just, you know, maybe something else is their thing, like drawing or sports or whatever.
Just kind of killing time.
Like I'm not going to stress as much. But this is with students who are passionate about music. Music's important to them. They're passionate about it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just like, I don't know.
Like the world has enough bad
us.
guitar players. The world is full of bad guitar players. We don't need to be creating more bad guitar players.
You know what? I told a student of mine recently, you know, she pushed back on learning the scales, and she's a really great guitar player. Lots of talent, already playing in bands, super smart. Like, you know, she could be somebody musically, right? Like,
what's her reasoning for not wanting to learn the scales? Just like doesn't like them, or
she just says she isn't inspired right now. Which is, you know, and I can appreciate, you know, sometimes there's not inspiration.
No, there's discipline.
And that's when you double down on fundamentals, right? And the other thing I said to her was, well, and I think she asked point blank, like, why do I need to know all this stuff? And my response was, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Also, I always tell them you're going to be limited. You're going to be extremely limited if you don't know this. So there's going to be lots of opportunities to make music in ways you couldn't even imagine right now if you don't understand these things. And there's going to be musical situations you're put into in the future where you're going to need this, and you're going to look back and say, why didn't I just learn this? You know what I mean?
Well, not to mention the opportunity for discovery.
It's true.
Know, because I know this, whoa, I stumbled upon this cool idea.
Instead of having one idea, you might have 10 ideas. You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's one of those things it comes back to, what's the problem with just learning? Like, learn this stuff, man. Why does it have to be a reason? Like, just get it down.
I'm the teacher. Just fucking do it.
I don't think it's like, I hate that appeals from authority. Always weak arguments.
Yeah, but, no, I know.
But it always comes down to, like, you know, that I keep telling them there's no ignorance. Yep. There's no advantage to not knowing something. You should learn as much as you can. And I can promise you can spend your whole life learning as much as you can, and you'll die with way more you don't know than you know.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
And you know what? You'll die with, like, there's still tons of stuff you could still have learned.
That's what I'm saying. There'll be more,
all of us.
When you die, there'll still be way more that you don't know than you know.
Right.
And even if you started like at age 12 and did it really diligently your entire life.
Yep.
So there's no advantage to ignorance. There's no advantage to not knowing stuff. And the whole I don't feel inspired thing, I don't give it a crap. You know what I mean? It's like no one's inspired by learning a D minor open chord, but you got to know it.
Like that's what
no one's
is
inspired
for.
learning the notes of the neck. You got to know it.
Although if I'm going to sound kind of hokey, even an open D minor chord is still magic to me.
It is. No, I agree that anything that's musical is magic if you want to have the right perspective on it. You know what I mean? It's like, and I just keep looking at that, and it's like, I think what they're so interested. It's partially there's a bunch of things going on psychologically. Let me put on my amateur psychologist hat going on.
Excellent.
I think partially it's feelings of inadequacy because they've been at it for a few weeks and they don't have it down yet, and they don't understand why they suck at this. It's feelings of hostility because this is harder than they thought, and they wish they didn't have to do it, and they're looking for some kind of escape hatch. And
they're probably like the best guitar player at their high school or something, but now they're realizing like
how
that
far
really
away they are from the goal.
Yep.
And that there partially is that going on, and it's partially that maybe they are bored doing it, and they don't like the idea that the reality to get over that boredom and do it. And they're looking for us to be nice guys and say, "Oh, okay, well if you don't like it, let's not do this. Let's go learn this Green Day songs. That's fine.
Let's just go read a tab."
Yeah, and I'll just say, "Nope, you got to learn this. We're not moving forward until you get this down."
Or if all you're going to do is learn songs off of tabs, and
then you don't need me anyway. Why
you
do you spend the money
anyway? Yeah, what are you even doing?
That's free. Just go do that. You know what I mean? But you're still going to have these giant holes that you won't know about.
And you know what? You could still probably do that better.
Yeah. You would, for sure, because you actually know it. And not only that, but then all those resources on YouTube that you can't use now because you don't have any context, you can actually use those once you know the basic fundamentals. You can go and watch a thing on modes and understand exactly what they're talking about and not be completely lost. Thank you for listening to the Rock Guitar Confidential podcast with Ryan and Scott. Hope you're enjoying listening to the teachers talking. Please make sure to rate and subscribe to this podcast. Now back to the show. I don't know. It's weird. As somebody who never struggled with the inspiration to practice, my struggle was I didn't have enough time. I would practice 5 hours a day, but that was still not enough. I would have practiced 10 hours a day if I could have. You know what I mean? It's like in fact, when I was in my early 20s, I did that. I practiced like 10 to 15 hours a day every day. You know what I mean? When I didn't have a family and I just got out of music school and I was, starting my teaching practice and I was playing in different bands. I mean, I would literally play guitar from the moment I woke up in the morning until the moment I went to bed at night every day.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? For like 2-3 years. You know what I mean? And I have to do that to be a great guitar player. But I'm saying that every great guitar player I've ever known has done that. I've never come across a great guitar player who's awesome who didn't spend at least a few years of their lives playing at least 10 to 12 hours a day every day.
My friend Rich, my dear friend Rich Shepard, my big brother, my best buddy Rich Shepard.
Got a feeling the slam's coming right now. Butt slam.
No, actually, he put it to me once. If you didn't play guitar that day, you weren't a musician that day.
Mm. That's true. I guess I never thought of that. I mean, there was never a day I didn't play guitar, so I never even thought about it. I think also partially the time that we grew up in was so easy to be inspired to play guitar because every time you turn around, there was some other amazing guitar player emerging who was like, "Who's this guy? Holy crap! Oh my god, I got to get on this shit because this guy's are passing me up." Like as I'm sitting here, there's guys coming up with all these crazy new techniques I never even thought about.
And then even more closely, I spent most of my time in a guitar shop from the age of like 11.
Yeah.
Right. Like all of the older guys that were my friends were awesome guitar players.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even have to open guitar for the practicing musician because all the
but
dudes
you would because it was awesome.
Of course I did, but I mean it was just like I was immersed.
I remember watching like all the late night talk shows back in like 89, 90, and they'd have like Megadeth and Giant and Winger and all these bands on there.
Winger on Arsenio Hall.
I know exactly. Yeah. So Megadeth on Arsenio Hall too.
Dude, Steve Vai on The Late Show.
Yep, Joe Satriani as well.
Yeah.
So back in like 90, 91, believe it or not, Joe Satriani would play on The Tonight Show.
Right.
It would be like what Billie Eilish is now. That's what Joe Satriani was in 1990, which is so crazy to think of. Like as far as in the pop culture, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you could watch these amazing guitar players with great, like closest to high def they had at that time. Camera work right on their fingers. That was like gold, man. Watching them play that stuff. And I don't know. I guess when your bar is super high, you can't learn enough because you want to be. That Steve Vai is a monster and he can play anything. Yeah. And if you want to even come close to that, you have to work your ass off. And there's no way that you're going to get close to that without.
And you know what? I'll even say, even if you want to be Dave Grohl and play Foo Fighters songs night in, night out, like you at least have to have a sense of rhythm.
Yeah, and basic understanding of harmony. And then having a little bit of scale technique is going to help you be more creative.
Sure, absolutely. Because all those chord progressions for those Foo Fighters songs, they've all got root notes, and they're all you can map them all out as
secondary melodies going on there too. And if you have at least some degree of technique, you can be more interesting into their melodies. You're not going to be so limited. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's weird to me. I hear a lot of excuse making. Like this is essentially this is hard. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. And it's like, well, sorry, man. If you want to be a real guitar player, you got to put some time in. It's going to take some practice. Why do I have to know how to count rhythms? Because you're going to suck if you don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like.
Or I had a recent one. The guy wants to learn fingerstyle. He says, "Well, if I want to learn fingerstyle, why do I need to learn bar chords?"
Yep.
Well,
it's called a non sequitur, right?
Yeah,
it's
totally. And why would you back? I guarantee you there'll be a bar chord somewhere.
Yeah, I mean it's possible that they've had a bad experience with a teacher in the past who maybe was taking them down a path that they didn't like. But here's the thing, though. You can't keep switching teacher to teacher to teacher to teacher looking for someone. I mean, you got at least someone who you click with maybe on a personal level.
Sure.
But you got to kind of stick with it because everyone's perspective on how to present information is different. And as soon as you switch to a new teacher, it's almost like a football, like a coach switching, and the quarterback has to learn new systems. Like it's maybe the same concepts, but they're being taught in a completely different way.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's very difficult to do that and be successful. You know what I mean? So you kind of just need to stick with someone's program. And I mean, here's the thing, though. You and I are kind of people who have programs.
Yeah,
I don't think that's that common amongst guitar teachers. I think most guitar teachers, they sort of are just like, hey, man, what do you want to learn today?
Yeah, I inherited a student once from a teacher that left, and I asked her what she was working on, and she said, well, I was working on Dover by Eric Johnson, and I thought,
oh, awesome.
I thought, awesome, this is going to be great. Well, let's take a look at, just so I don't have to write things down again. Yeah. Can I take a look at your folder, and let's, there it is, it's all tabbed out, and I asked her to play it, and she couldn't.
Yeah.
And, that conversation evolves into, well, hey, let's you play an open G chord just so I can make sure you're in tune.
Mm-hmm. No, you can't. Okay, let's go back and start with basic chords. Yeah.
So just like what was happening
Yeah.
before
I
got there?
judge another teacher too harshly, there's like a lot of times where like the students colander, like you pour the knowledge right out the back. You know what I mean? So like you might,
yeah, of course,
you might have worked on open chords like 6 months ago, but they have not practiced it since the week you asked them to do it.
And to be fair, I tell my students too, like, hey, it's okay if this doesn't sink in all the way the first time. We're going to come back and talk about this. I think there's importance of having that conversation over a period of time about music, right? So, I mean, it's okay if we learn key signatures or we talk about it, and then 6 months down the road, maybe they need to refresh.
Yeah,
I am so okay with refreshing on any topic. You know, and then over a long enough period of time, you've refreshed. It's like learning how to speak a language.
Yeah, after you've done like the 6th time you've done the refresh, it starts to sink in a little bit.
Sure, and then we use that tool, you know, in different contexts, and then we build. It's all about building familiarity.
Yeah, you know, I try and give my students like a sample practice schedule too about how they kind of approach things. You know what I mean? And then it just, as we add new material, it's just kind of put them in the appropriate context that they've got written out for you. For me, now my ideal practice schedule for a person would be to do a little bit of everything every day. So do like maybe 2 hours and split it up between lead and rhythm guitar and reading, that kind of thing. For most people, they only have a half hour. And that's something that if they're going to practice, and I want them to at least get something done. So my approach for the average student is I kind of break it up over the week. So you have lead guitar ideas you'll do one day, rhythm guitar ideas you'll do one day, repertoire you'll do one day, reading you'll do one day, and then review, which is basically anything that you know you're struggling on, would be one day by itself. And so you have like that whole day is just dedicated to like lead guitar concepts. One day is just dedicated to rhythm guitar, and then do that every single week. And as we add new concepts, they go on the appropriate day. So if it's this new lick idea, it goes on the lead guitar day. If it's a new rhythmic concept, it goes on the rhythm guitar day. You know, if it's a new song, it goes on a song day. And you have to kind of keep yourself organized to keep going through those guys all the time. So every Monday at 4:30 to 4:45. That is your rhythm guitar day. Every Wednesday from 5 to 5:45, that's your lead guitar day. Every Friday from whatever it is.
Right, you actually schedule the time. You don't find time, you schedule it.
Yep, you say what times do I know I can do this, and then you have a plan. And I always tell them, I really encourage people to keep a practice journal.
Oh yeah,
and say, okay, like write down what you did last week, then write down what you're going to do next week. Like what keys you're going to play in, what sequencing ideas, what licks you're going to play on, what
tempo at what tempo were you practicing?
To the metronome and all that stuff. And then that way, when you sit down to practice, you know exactly what you need to do. It's just about execution, just about doing it.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
What I mean? And that takes a level of organization and a level of consistency that I think I've only found through the last 26 years of teaching that is way beyond what most people are capable of. I would say there's like 3% of students who are capable of doing that.
Oh yeah, I don't know how many times I've asked a student to, okay, here, log on this date. What was the tempo at which you were playing that scale exercise?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just kind of, and I can relate because this is how I got through high school, just half-assing it on stuff like that. But
why would you half-ass it on guitar, man?
Well, but never with guitar though. So that's where the disconnect is. Like if it were math class, then I'd.
So you can relate to them in the sense that this was like biology. I totally get it.
And that kind of poses. I think that's another challenge that we face as teachers. I remember when I first started, I just assumed. Everybody would
as an instructor.
As an instructor, as an instructor, that everybody would fall in love with guitar and music and then want to conquer the world with a guitar.
Yeah.
But not everybody does.
Nope, it's just something that they do to kill time. Some people. It's that being said, I don't care if it's something like you do. If you're here in my room, you're going to learn how to play real guitar. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? And you're not going to leave me not knowing anything. I'm not going to teach you 3 riffs to songs that and then you'll forget them in 6 months. And you took lessons for 6 months, and it made no difference at all in your life.
Yeah.
You're going to at least learn chords and rhythm. You're going to at least understand how keys work. You're going to at least have a good idea about scales and changing keys with scales and technique. And you're going to get a nice repertoire of like 10 to 20 songs. You know how to play top to bottom, that whole thing. And then you're going to at least have that when you leave me. You know what I mean?
And if I'm going to listen to that song you want to learn and then quickly learn it myself and then write it down, I'm going to explain to you what I'm thinking while I do it.
You know what I do actually? I give my students a song, like a repertoire example that they can based on example. What I'm trying to say, they have options. If you walk in, you have like 10 different options, and like when we get through the basic fundamentals of chords and rhythm, and we talk about rock rhythms, we talk about arpeggiated chords, we talk about syncopated funk rhythms, we talk about chord transitions, that stuff like that. The next thing I get into is songs, and we're going to learn 10 songs top to bottom. I give them a bunch of different lists. Like they could choose from like modern pop, classic rock, heavy metal, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. They could do like country. They could pick whatever. And there's 10 songs in that style that are going to be, that have techniques I know I need them to know.
So now is this like is there like improvisation added to all of this?
No, this is just understanding song structure and applying rhythm guitar concepts. The improvisation stuff will come after we learn scales.
Okay, so these aren't like hit songs.
No, they're hit
like
songs.
Styles. Oh, they are.
They're hit songs. Yeah.
Got it.
So, for instance, in classic rock, it's like "Highway to Hell," "Smoke on the Water,"
cool.
"Sweet Home Alabama," Rhiannon from Fleetwood Mac.
Nice.
The Eagles, "Hotel California," stuff like that. It's basically just learning how to play all the parts, like the verses and choruses and stuff, and how do you use the chords and changes, and what's a verse, what's a pre-chorus, that kind of thing. How do you approach learning a song, learning parts and understanding arrangements, that kind of thing. And then by the time we're done, we're gonna learn all these parts. And then for the pop, it's like Shawn Mendes, Selena Gomez, Marshmello, stuff that they would hear on the pop radio. Yeah, there's a Selena Gomez. It's Marshmello and Selena Gomez. It's called Wolves.
Marshmello, that's a delicious sounding artist.
It's true. But we'll also do like Casey
Musgraves,
Timberlake, stuff like that. And then for like the country, it's like Luke Bryan, Tim McGraw, Garth Brooks, that kind of thing. Just stuff that they can kind of relate to. It's close.
Joe Jonerson.
Actually, I do teach a Toby Keith song in that section.
Bill Billerson.
I tell you what, I should have been a cowboy, I reckon. Exactly. But and then like metal, we do like Megadeth, Scorpions, Priest, Maiden, stuff like that. So it's like it's depending on that student's where they're coming from. And then Green Day and Blink-182 for the 90s.
So do you have the like Scorpions, Megadeth? Do you have that section on the handout printed in a much larger font than the other ones?
No, I don't.
Oh,
because I don't. Because I have students who I mean, a lot of my students are not in the metal. I mean, a lot of them are, but some of them aren't. You know what I mean? And I don't want them to feel like unwelcome or something. It's like I want them to realize, hey, I'm going to help. I'll meet you where you are.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And we'll kind of try and I have these songs instead of the ones you choose, because the ones you choose might not make you actually work the techniques I need you to work on.
Yep.
So the goal here is to have a song at the end of the day that you can play, but I need you to work on these techniques. That's why we're doing this. It's not because the songs are the greatest songs ever, because you need to get good at these certain techniques.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And this is
absolutely.
a little bit more of a fun way to do it than just here's exercise 4. You know what I mean?
Right.
And at the same time, you're learning about what's a bridge, what's a chorus, what's a pre-chorus, what's an intro.
Structure.
Yeah, how do you go about learning songs by understanding parts and arrangements, that kind of thing. And just stuff that you need is if you're going to play with other people, kind of in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? And hopefully trying to find the style of music that's closer to where you're coming from, at least in the ballpark. But it's so funny? I found it's so much more difficult now than it was like 15 years ago, because everybody's so like in their own little bubbles. And then a lot of stuff, even something like Hotel California by the Eagles, which you would think there's no way you haven't heard that a million times. Like if you're 15, you probably have never heard that song. Right. You know what I mean? And it's like really hard to find songs that everyone's heard. It's really hard.
That's odd.
AC/DC is like the only one that I feel like everyone's heard.
And even then, I've got a student who's, You Shook Me All Night. Man, that is just, I don't know how many times I've taught that song.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just the 1-4-5 in G, just with the C add 9 instead.
Yeah,
and, man.
Which is like every other song, Green Day, Bon Jovi, Skid Row, they have the same chord changes, you know what I mean?
Right. Like, people use that chord progression because it's easy to play.
And it sounds good.
It's good,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Very useful, right?
Yep. What's funny though is I've had students say with a straight face that they've never heard Back in Black to me before, and I always look at them and roll my eyes like, please, you've totally heard Black in Black a million times, and they go, but sometimes if you're 9, maybe you haven't, because dude, nobody listens to the radio. They listen to Spotify playlists or things that their friends send on YouTube. That's what they listen to. There's no like reach for radio. So the people that you're going to reach with the radio hits are people like over 35. Who actually know what radio hits are.
Right, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because there's really nobody under that age who really knows about the radio at all.
It's crazy how many... So we're having a run on Master of Puppets right now because of Stranger Things, right? And then I'll ask, well, so what do you think about the other songs on the album?
Yeah.
They haven't heard the other songs on the album.
They've never heard of Metallica until that song.
Right. Which, I mean, I'm glad their entry point into Metallica was at least Master of Puppets. That's great.
What's funny to me, though, is if it wasn't in the context of a show they loved, I don't know that they would be overly impressed with that song if they just heard it. If it was on the radio, they would.
Agreed.
It's all because of the context that they hear it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I've got the Weezer kids playing Metallica now.
Yeah,
and you know what? Cheers to Stranger Things. Here's to the Duffer Brothers. Thank you on behalf of humanity.
I don't know. It's weird though. Then I find a bunch of younger students who are like 14, 15, 16, 17 years old who are really into the classic metal, who loved like Megadeth and stuff. I had a student of mine who was like 13, was like, "Oh yeah, Symphony of Destruction from Megadeth is cool, but it's not like one of their heavier songs." I'm like, "Dude, this guy actually knows the Megadeth catalog. He's like 14. That gives me hope. You know what I mean?"
And Alice in Chains is out there still doing it. Yeah. And I mean, I know we've been harsh on the 90s as a decade, but Alice in Chains is a great band. Yeah.
I think Alice in Chains and Soundgarden are both bands that you could kind of wrap your arms around as a metal guy.
Totally.
Even though they're not like Alice in Chains, I think is legit.
Just as a rocker metal guy. Yeah.
Soundgarden is not as legit as far as guitar playing. I think the rhythm section of that band's really great. I think the vocalist on that band's really great. I think
Chris Cornell was great.
I think that Kim Thayil is a very average guitar player. He's like the Mick Mars of the grunge world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he's kind of proto Iommi, but I mean,
but not as skilled or interesting. You know what I mean? It's,
and he had more fingers to work with.
Yeah, that's true. So. And he's just, he's one of those guys though. He's creative, but he's not a guitar player. Does it make sense? He's not like a guy who's going to sit down and work on his craft and say, he probably would spend like 6 hours working on tones and like 5 minutes playing.
Right. Yeah.
That's the kind of guy he strikes me as. He's like a tone quester rather than a player.
Yeah, like alternate tunings and
tones
and textures.
Jerry Cantrell is the exact opposite. He's the guy who can totally play ripping solos if he wants to, but he also is a brilliant songwriter. Understands arrangement. Just everything about that band is the next level. Alice in Chains. And I look at as far as especially the time they came out. I mean, they were head and shoulders the best band of that
easily.
That whole movement. And what's amazing to me is Nirvana is now held up. It's like, dude, Alice in Chains was way better than Nirvana. It's not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah, it's weird to me that it's a situation where they're way less known. You know what I mean? And it's I mean, that's just, I think there's something to be said for, this is going to sound like I'm really, really being assaulting on the average person, but I feel like the more muso you make music, the more you kind of start weeding out people who could like it. If it's too like...
now, what do you mean muso?
Meaning it's got interesting harmonic construction. It's got interesting harmonies. It's got interesting rhythmic sections. It's in the 7, for instance, Them Bones is in 7.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Right.
Anytime you do something like that, where it's like something where it's like a little bit more challenging musically, you start like weeding out people who can't handle that.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yep,
if
makes
something
total sense.
Where there's like extended guitar solo or something like that, they kind of check out. If they're a certain kind of person, you know what I mean? And I think that Nirvana was the most like the most not challenging 90s band is probably Blink-182. As far as the most not challenging the audience kind of band.
Well, there was always Presidents of the United States of America.
Yeah, that's true.
They didn't even
Smash Mouth wasn't terribly
on
challenging either, but
don't even get me started on Smash Mouth. That was a point of contention with the last cover band I played in.
Well, I mean, the point I'm trying to make though is that like the bands that are like the least challenging, kind of musically, are the ones that tend to be the most successful. I find.
And I got to give Trell credit because one of my students. Same one who were, trying to get used to some scales and stuff, but also very, very talented, like seriously talented. Mm-hmm. Like she saw Jerry Cantrell like 2 months ago, and then just saw Alice in Chains within the last few weeks.
Oh, nice.
Like played here in Sacramento.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so Jerry Cantrell's out
there.
Play
at the Crest or something like that, or
I think they were at Ace of Spades.
Really, Jerry Cantrell's playing? Alice in Chains is playing Ace of Spades?
Well, okay, so I think Alice in Chains was in Wheatland at the amphitheater.
Oh, okay. I was going to say
Jerry Cantrell's solo band was at Ace of Spades. I think I could be totally wrong, but I think that's how that. I mean,
that's a good club, a good sized club. But it seems like way lower than like Alice in Chains would be playing. I'm like, my God, those guys. Would be
Alice in Chains. They were definitely at like the Wheatland amphitheater, whatever they're calling it now, Toyota Center or something like that. Yeah. But anyway, so like Jerry is still out there. He's got the gravitas or the cachet or whatever you want to call it.
Even the music that Alice has made since they came back with William Duvall singing has been really good music. You know what I mean? It's been good stuff. It lives up to the legacy of the band.
It stands the test.
It's not like it's like some kind of shell of what they were. You know what I mean? They're still great. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's weird. I feel like wanting quality from musicians, it seems like something that maybe, to my mind, doesn't seem like too much to ask, but it seems like for a lot of people that is. And they just want to, it's always difficult. There's a myopia that comes in when you dedicate your whole life to musicianship and playing the music, is that you look for certain things and you're mystified when people don't see the greatness here, and they are impressed with things that are not worthy to be impressed by. You just can't see the forest through the trees sometimes, because to an average schmo who doesn't care about music, they just want something fun to listen to on the car ride to the store.
Well, and they want to buy the T-shirt, and they want to, it's like music isn't the product.
Yeah, it's funny. I was at the gym the other day, and someone was sometimes you're getting like stuck in these conversations between, like, I'll be on like a elliptical, and there's persons on either side of me talking over me, back and forth, like, dude, I went and saw Devil Wears Prada, and it was like the craziest mosh pit I've ever been in. It was like some douchey 35-year-old dude who's like, I'm like, First of all, the big mistake you made is you went to a Devil Wears Prada concert. That was the first mistake you made.
See, here's where I'm going to give I'm going to put another point in the column for Slayer. Because if you want to see the crazy mosh pit, Slayer would be a good place to go.
I don't want to have anything to do with the mosh pit.
I'm just saying.
If I pay $150 to go see a show, I want to see a show. I don't want to see some douchebag punch me in the face over and over again. You know, it's like
totally. Now,
when I was by the way, when I was 18, I also didn't want to do that.
Oh, really? No, when I was 18, I didn't mind like getting dirty and like I was skinny and bony.
I wanted people out of the way so I could see what the guitar player was doing.
Yeah, I wanted to do that too.
You know, I wanted to be front row, standing like 10 feet from Steve Stevens when he was playing. You know
Steve Stevens, such
a
great player.
None of the people that I was into were like bands who would have mosh pits as much, for the most part back then. And
so we were different in that regard.
Yeah, because I wanted to hear killer guitar playing. And Megadeth I would have seen for sure. I thought that Marty Friedman was outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
And I was right. He was outstanding and is outstanding. But, but the Whitesnake, White Lion, Scorpions, Night Ranger, those kind of bands are going to have mosh pits. I mean, also, I've never gave a shit about making the scene either. I wanted to hear killer music, and I want to see what the guitar player's doing.
Well, I think that's kind of part of the point there, right? So for us, the music was always the thing.
By far the thing, yeah.
These days, again, music isn't the product.
Yeah.
It's always got to be a vehicle for, like, the album isn't the product.
Yeah, we're getting kind of far afield on it. I just realized
that
we're really
getting a little far afield.
We've worked our way back to our angers about this whole thing. So
yes. So
one thing I want to mention before we run out of time, if I could, is that something I'm running across with a lot of people, and maybe you have the same experience too when it comes to teaching. Is I hear people say, this is really hard. This is hard. Like if someone will say doesn't want their thumb behind the neck when they're trying to do a stretch or something. They'll try and hit the thumb over and say, okay, now you need to distinguish between this is hard and I'm not used to it. And those at that point are going to be indistinguishable from each other, but you have to understand it's not hard. You're just not used to it.
That's right.
Like throwing a baseball is hard if you've never done it before. Skiing is hard if you've never done it before. It's not that it's really that hard. You're just not used to it.
That's right.
And you have to teach used to it. That's the thing. And you have to have that patience to teach yourself. And I think that that's something that a lot of people drop off the map when they shouldn't because this is hard. I stop. It's like you don't stop. You have to sit there and find a way to teach yourself to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And you're lucky. You're with me. I'm going to show you how to do it the right way. And just do what I tell you and you'll be fine. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Dude, when I was a kid, I must have been like 6 or 7 years old. My mom took me to the public swimming pool for swimming lessons. And the whole first summer, I cried and cried and cried. And like the swimming instructor had to carry me into the pool and put me in the water.
Oh,
and
how fun that must have been for them, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, totally, dude. I'm so glad I don't have kids. And so that's how that first summer was for however many weeks it lasted, you know, which was a greater percentage of my life then than it is now, of course.
Yeah.
But dude, after that, I loved it. Every summer couldn't keep me away. That's just what I did.
You just have to get over that hump. You know what I mean? This is challenging, but you can do it. You just got to sit down and be consistent and keep working at it.
And that's at any age too. Yeah. Like I think my adult students, I think if I were to, paint with a broad brush and average it, my adult students are kind of the ones who freak out most.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a weird bar they hold themselves to. Like, oh, it should be easy. It's like, well, why should it? Nothing about what we're doing is easy. Why would you think it'd be easy? I don't understand why you think that.
Or like, and this is a weird phenomenon. I want to work on this chapter for one more week. When, no, they don't have to. Like, after I've evaluated that, you get the concept and you can also physically play what's being demanded.
Yeah.
We need to move on.
Yeah.
Right? That's completely different than this is boring, I don't want to do it. It's like, no, you did do it.
Yeah. Just keep doing that.
Just keep doing that
on the day you're supposed to do it, and then we're going to add this new thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I have so many times students will say, like, well, I'm going to sit down and I just want to work on, this one idea until I get it down. And then I always tell them, like, look, what you're getting into is what I call the game of whack-a-mole. So what you're going to do is you're going to really, really perfect, like say it's, I don't know, a scale sequence or something. I'm going to get it till it's perfect. Okay, cool, but then we're going to move on to this other thing, and then you're going to drop that and work on the new thing, and then what's going to happen is you're going to forget that thing you just did, and you're going to get the new thing down, hence the game of whack-a-mole. You're only going to be able to play one thing at any given time if you take that approach.
Yep.
You have to work on everything all the time. And it's got to be in its proper place. You have to organize your schedule, and you have to do it. And you're going to learn things slower than you might want to because you can't focus entirely on it. But that's for the purpose of making sure that you can do all the things you need to do, not just one of the things you need to do. And that's very, very challenging for people to get their head around. It's like, look, it's going to be slower because you have to work on these other things too. And there's a reason for that. And it's about 3 years you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. But right now, you just got to do what I'm telling you.
Yeah, because you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly right. And I do, is I've walked this path. I know exactly what it takes. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that's like, I'm here trying to do what's right for you, at the end of the day, and you have to just trust me. And it's one of those things that it's hard, 'cause especially if you have bad experiences with bad teachers in the past, then they don't know the difference. And sometimes they might just think you're being an obstinate asshole. And at the end of the day, you're like, I always try and make sure that they feel heard. Like, I understand what you're saying, but here's the reason why we're not doing this instead, because this is why. You know what I mean?
And I think it's also important to impart that, we're all on the path of learning.
Yeah, exactly. There's the mind of the student kind of attitude you have to have, no matter what level you are.
You know what? They don't know what they don't know, and you know what? I don't know what I don't know. That's why I'm trying to learn more all the time.
Exactly.
And I keep enjoying when I discover something new that I didn't know existed.
And you can paint that in two different ways. You can say like, oh man, I haven't accomplished anything. Look at it like, man, I have endless possibility to get better.
That's right.
I could forever keep improving, no matter how good I am. You know what I mean? And that's something that I think is a brilliant, amazing thing. Like, that you could keep getting better no matter what level you are. And there's always way more you don't know than you know, no matter how good you are. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things, I think you have to have that humility and that sort of student's mind. But at the same time, you have to be able to be on a consistent path and recognize and take stock of what you've achieved and what you've accomplished, and then build on that, rather than just being satisfied with, oh, I got this, cool, I can play my open chords and I can strum in eighth notes, so then I'm good, I'm cool. You know, it's like that. I don't know. That seems to me like such an obvious thing, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. You know what I mean?
I think the other thing too, another aspect to all of this is there's no point in having tools in your toolbox if there's no work to do. Mm-hmm. So the more I'm speaking for myself, I'm always trying to connect my students with each other so they can form bands. Or, because there's always the student that asks, like, hey, how do I play with people?
Yeah.
It skips. We've got Stairway to Stardom during the summer for the young people 18 and under, where they get put into bands and they get a coach and they get to write songs. There's a performance.
Yeah.
Adults, we've got Weekend Warriors, where you put adults in bands. That's for cover songs.
Yeah.
But
still playing with other people.
It's still playing with other people. You get up on stage. Yes, you got to have something to do. Or, I've had some students this year who have recorded their own songs. So and that'll be we'll include that on another podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
But just whatever it is, write a song.
Yeah.
Play music with someone else.
I've always said that too. Like, when you learn something like key centers, like what's a major chord progression? That's a 1 5 6 4 1. Okay, cool. Now write a song with that. Go write a verse or a chorus, and then that's something. Okay, well, how to do it? Okay, we'll take any rhythm. Let's take an eighth note rhythm, and we'll do this and plug it in. Then let's do, maybe on the chorus, we'll just leave the 6 out. Let's go 1 5 4. Then go back to throw the 6 back in on the verse. Yeah. And then boom, you got a verse and chorus. Verse chorus. Let's throw a bridge in there. Let's go to minor maybe. And then
throw a 3 chord in there and get all moody.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But then that way they're seeing the tools and seeing how you're using the tools to make music. It's not just a thing that you're learning as I'm a mean teacher who's making you learn this. This is the basis of how to make music. Yeah. If you want to make music. But then, so many of students that I have don't have any interest in making music whatsoever. They just want to play that cool song they heard on the radio.
Yeah, well, there's a whole industry around download musician, which I actually think is good, right? If you're just going to learn songs and stuff, right? The Rocksmiths.
There's never been a time that's better if you just want to be the guitar player who wants to learn songs. Just go on YouTube. It's free. It's right there.
Yeah.
There's tons, and any song you can think of, there's awesome tutorials that the dudes have done. It's not like you need us for that. If you want to just learn songs, go learn songs. If you want to learn how to play guitar, then you need a teacher. There's really no other way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's one of those things that I think that I always kind of assume when you walk in my door that you want to be taking music more seriously. I know it's crazy. I feel like I haven't been as fun as I normally am. I feel like I'm kind of too serious on this one.
Dude, you're always fun, man. And hey, these are important topics, and that's why we're talking about them.
It's true, and this is something that for you and me are a big part of our life. Like, this is part of our experience as musicians, is trying to get people to understand. Like, dude, it's really not that hard. Just practice. At the end of the day,
totally.
Be consistent and practice.
I think the part, I guess if our listeners are going to get anything, well, I think it should be evident how much you and I care about our students.
Yep.
And they're being successful.
Yeah.
And so, it isn't just, we do actually spend a lot of time thinking about how we're going to work with that student that pushes back a little bit.
Yep. And it's good to push back. It's not a problem pushing back.
Yeah.
I think you have every right to ask why we're doing something, but I think also you have every right to come to the table with an honest mind and say, okay, I understand what you're saying, rather than saying trying to take a power player so then just make me do stuff. It's like,
right, yeah.
If you're not going to be straightforward and meet me when I'm meeting you, then we're going to have to go back to just, okay, do this because I told you. You know what I mean? I'd rather not be that person. You know what I mean?
I think the thing too that's for any of you out there that are taking guitar lessons or whatever, if I've got more stamina to practice your lesson than you do. So like we can spend the whole half hour doing last week's lesson. I can play that. I can play a 1-5-6-4 chord progression for hours, not let alone a half hour, right? If you didn't learn the scale drill, I can play that all day.
Yeah.
I can easily do it for a half hour. We'll sit down, we'll do it together, right? So, you know, so there's two aspects to that. One is I'm down to help hour, totally, right? Like my stamina for that.
If that's what you need me to do.
If that's what you need me to do, that's great. But
and I'm not going to get mad at you. You're not in trouble.
Yeah, I'm not mad at you or anything.
Yeah.
But you know, obviously for yourself, you don't want your half hour with your instructor to become your practice session.
Yeah. And that's also not going to get you anywhere if that's the only thing you're practicing the whole week. That's
right.
not going to be enough to get it done. Unless you want to get, like, in 20 years' time, you'll have that down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. So
I don't know. It's so weird to me. Just practice. Is that hard? Is it that hard to just go home and practice? I mean,
and you know what? Maybe and maybe some weeks it legitimately was.
Sure.
Right.
But that should be the rare exception.
But that's got to be the exception. You know what I mean? Is like every week isn't going to be the death of a loved one or crunch time at work,
some car crash or something like that.
Right. Or like aliens came down in the backyard.
Satellite fell from space and crushed my house. You know, that kind of thing.
Or like you had to clean your room.
Yeah, that's true. And then inside the room, you found the gremlin and you fed it after midnight. All kinds of hijinks ensued.
Yeah, totally. You found the map to One-Eyed Willie's treasure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, then Ma Fratelli shows up.
And then you found out why he's one-eyed. So,
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you realized it was just my Chihuahua.
Exactly.
Yeah, so those things can happen, but
and he said, thank God there's no dogs here, though.
That's right. We don't have a dog. We have a Chihuahua. Exactly. There's a whole other episode right there.
All right, I think that's a good place to wrap up.
I think so.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the Rock Guitar Confidential podcast with Scott and Ryan. And we still have not got our social shortly. Ex Aegis, our debut album, is going to be dropping here in the fall of 2022. So if you guys are interested in checking out the music that we make, that is going to be very, very shortly coming up. And other than that, thanks for joining us.
All right. Peace.